So, the trilogy is finally on. Canelo Alvarez looks set to defend his 168-pound titles against Gennady Golovkin on September 17th. I feel like this fight will probably go a lot different than the first two in terms of there will be a definitive ending to this trilogy. I feel like someone will get knocked out in this fight. I'm a little concerned for Canelo Alvarez in terms of he's coming into this fight looking at it personal, and I feel like maybe that might cloud his judgment in terms of how he fights and how aggressive he is in the fight. Or, it's like a double edged sword. Or it'll boost him in the fight and he'll figure out a way to get Gennady Golovkin out of there for the first time in his career. I felt like Triple G looked pretty good in his last fight against Murata. There were a couple times where I felt like, oh, okay, Murata may turn this fight into a slugfest and figure out a way to hurt Triple G. And there were a couple times in the third and fourth round where he did throw a couple body shots and it looked like it bothered Triple G at times. But in the fifth round, when Gennady Golovkin knocked out Murata's mouthpiece, it kind of, showed that, okay, he still carries really good power. And after that, Murata couldn't recover and Gennady Golovkin got him out of there. So all in all, it was a pretty good fight for Gennady Golovkin coming off of a long layoff. Whereas Canelo Alvarez beat Caleb Plant at 168 to become undisputed and then moved up to fight Dimitri Bivol, which proved to be a bit too much of a step far in terms of how Canelo Alvarez could go up to 175 and, see what he could do. I felt like against Bivol, he showed that he didn't really have a plan B. He kind of only had one plan, which was to steamroll Dimitri Bivol and, hit his arms to get him to lower his guard. And then he was going to try and finish him with some heavy shots. I think even Bivol said that he just threw power shots at him and he didn't really set much up, which it was true. I think after the fourth round, Alvarez was flustered and he was a bit aggravated that his plan wasn't working. And it just seemed like he just defaulted to, okay, I'm going to stick with this plan. And he didn't really change too much. He didn't try doing anything different. He just kind of headhunted and stayed in that same game plan and same mindset. He didn't try to change anything up, which I thought was really surprising. I was going for Canelo Alvarez in the fight to win in terms of, okay, eventually he will figure out a way to get Bivol out of there. He has more experience. He's fought more high-level fighters, but Bivol is an amazing fighter in terms of what he was able to do that night. He showed that Canelo Alvarez still has quite a few holes in his game, and maybe Golovkin could exploit those holes by boxing smart and slugging when needed, which is what Bivol did. He boxed smart and he slugged when needed. And what happens if Alvarez can't push Triple G back at 160? At 160, they were pretty even, I felt. But at 168, Triple G is the bigger man in general. So I wonder if Golovkin moving up to 168 will benefit him in terms of strength, power, and maybe even stamina. Maybe he might be too much for Canelo to handle, or will it slow Triple G down and Canelo Alvarez, who is much more accustomed to 168, will dominate this fight? I know everyone says that the younger man should win this fight, but with Triple G, I feel like he has a grudge against Canelo, and it is personal to him, even though he doesn't show it as much. And he's going to really train hard for this fight. He has a goal of beating this man who he felt robbed him of a lot of opportunities. So I feel like he's got a ton of fuel that he's just throwing on this fire in terms of trying to get Canelo Alvarez out of there. So I feel like it's going to be a really good action-packed fight for however long it lasts. I don't think it's going to go more than 7 rounds. I feel like one of them will start to wilt at some point in the 5th round or in the middle of the fight. And consensus is probably going with Triple G wilting and Canelo Alvarez, steamrolling him and making this kind of just an easy fight. But I feel like this is going to be anything but an easy fight for either guy. Both of them really want to win. We saw it based on the stare down at the press conference today. Both fighters really want to win this fight, and none of them are going to accept a defeat. A defeat for either fighter is a detriment to the rest of their career. If Triple G loses, it's most likely he will retire, or he can move back down to 160, and he still has the belts there. He still has the IBF and the IBO, and he can defend those belts and maybe take on a Jermall Charlo, maybe, or try to capture one of the other belts and make a few more defenses and then retire. For Canelo Alvarez, I feel like he has a lot more to lose in this fight. If he loses this fight, he loses all of the titles at 168. He's no longer undisputed, and he lost to an aging Triple G. Everyone's going to be like, how did you lose to a fighter like this? So I feel like Canelo Alvarez has a lot more pressure on his shoulders in this fight, and he has a lot more to lose. Whereas Triple G, he's coming in as the underdog, and he's got some decent momentum with a good win over Murata, whereas Canelo Alvarez has that loss against Bivol. But I don't think that really hurts him in terms of confidence, really. I feel like he's still going to be confident going into this fight because he knows he's shared the ring with Triple G on two different occasions, and he's felt like he won both those occasions. So it's going to be an interesting fight for how long it lasts. I just feel like you can't write off a fighter who wants revenge. Both fighters kind of want revenge, and either one, you can't write either guy off in this fight. I just have a feeling that it's going to be like a George Foreman versus Michael Moore, in terms of George Foreman was never supposed to win that fight, and he somehow won it. What happens if Triple G pulls out one last bit of greatness out of his amazing career? What happens if he just, turns back the clock for a round or two, and that's enough to put Canelo Alvarez on the back foot, similar to what Bivol did, and he kind of, I wouldn't say gives up, but he doesn't try to change his game plan, or he doesn't try to change a tactic in any round. He didn't do that against Bivol, so I have this feeling that maybe he's just going to try and stick to a one-dimensional game plan against Triple G, which is go forward and run him over. What happens if you can't run him over? He tried doing it in the second fight, and yeah, it was a lot more competitive, and you could say that Canelo won the fight or Triple G won the fight. That's how competitive it was. But he wasn't able to just kind of steamroll him. He wasn't able to steamroll him like he's done his last bit of competition, except for the Bivol fight. So I feel like this is a good fight. On paper, it seems like it's too late, which it is. But I feel like all in all, it'll be a great fight. And I feel like it'll surprise a lot of boxing fans out there. And maybe, who knows, maybe it'll reignite the passion for the sport that is kind of lacking a little bit lately. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Are you guys excited for this trilogy? Let me know, why, or why not. I'm interested to hear it. I'm excited for the trilogy, but it has to get there first. They have to be both in the ring for me to be like, okay, the fight's on. I don't want an injury to happen or something crazy like that. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. This is the Space Cowboy, and thank you.